creeps and grave hunters. So this video series is going to be a little bit different, a little looser, a little rantier, if I may say so myself. So basically, I noticed that you guys really dig it when I rant about things that I think people should know or talk about, and they're not. So this is History Rants, where I talk about things that people should be talking about, rant about it, throw a lot of information at your guys' face, and drink wine, cocktails, all of that fun stuff. This drink I am calling the Sultana Spritz in honor of our subject matter today, which is the Sultana. But yeah, if you can see, it's kind of floaty, looks kind of bloody. Ooh, if you want to see how I made this little shaboozy of a drink, go ahead and look at my TikTok. You can see it down here at the bottom, and you will see how to make this fun little Sultana Spritz for yourself. So without further ado, let's take a sip. Chin chin. So what the hell is the Sultana? Why did I name a spritz after it? Why am I gonna rant about it? Well, I'll tell you why. Because like many things in history, I didn't know about it until I knew about it. Common sense, obviously. That's why I have history class, okay? But history classes are usually boring as hell in school. So you get interested in when you get out of school. Like me, unless you're talking about medieval torture, which I've always loved. But that's a whole other subject, okay? But basically, I was up one night because I couldn't sleep, and I watched a documentary on the Sultana. Because I'm like, what the hell is the Sultana? Turns out, folks, the Sultana is the worst maritime disaster, not adventure, although it became one. It was the worst maritime adventure in American history to this day. And this thing happened on April 27th of 1865. So like that's to hold the title still is pretty big. Before we move on and talk about this doomed ship, I want to talk about April. I want to talk about why nobody's talking about the fact that April seems to be like the worst cursed month ever in history. Like you have the Titanic sank in 1912. Abraham Lincoln was shot in April like 14th or something of 1865. You have the worst Dust Bowl storm was the Great Dust Storm on April 15th, 1935. You have the earthquake in San Francisco and subsequent fire in 1906 happened in April and destroyed all these buildings I'll never get to see, and it pisses me off. But anyways, April, just watch out. Just watch out in April. Just put that in your memory bank. April, scary month. Okay, so we're gonna set the scene, all right? It's April of 1865. The Civil War's been happening, okay, for years. It's awful. Men are dying, the country's split. Are we gonna be unified again? I don't know. Are we friends still? We don't know. It's kind of like now, but different. So you have all of this stuff, and you have these horrible prisoner camps. But the war is over, so places like Andersonville are, being liberated. Men are getting to leave now. And when it's like, it should be joyous, right? Like, yay, we're out of the prison camps, except these men were so emaciated, so close to death, dying, had amputated limbs, were sick. Like they were walking skeletons, these guys. They had seen hell, they'd been through hell, then they lived in these prison camps. It was bad, 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 bad. Moving right along, you have all these Union soldiers that have been in prison camps in the South that need to get home to the North. So they need ships to take, cute little steamships to take the prisoners. I shouldn't call them that. They're now freed men. They're not even, whatever, it's fine. Who cares? We need to take all these men home, okay? We need to get them north. We need to shuttle them up. So all of these little steamboats, whatever you want to call them, needed to come down to Vicksburg, Mississippi to pick up these soldiers. Okay, great. The scene is set. Now, we need to talk about the Sultana, which is the ship that we're talking about. The Sultana was this like 260 foot wide little ship that thought, he could. The people called ships him or her. It doesn't matter. Anyways, the boat is kind of janky, okay? It's not in the best shape, but it gets the job done. And it had been in New Orleans, where one of its boilers, one of the 4 boilers, sprung a leak. So now we have the setting. We have our ship. We have it coming in from New Orleans. It is now in Vicksburg. It is in dire condition. But to continue our story, we need to talk about one of the biggest players here. Let's enter in bitch ass number 1. This is reserved for Captain James Cass Mason, who was the captain, obviously, and the ship owner. So here's the deal. He hears that these soldiers need a ticket home. Well, what is the incentive for all these captains to take these soldiers home? Well, I'll tell you what, the government is paying people to do it. They're like, hey, Broseph, if you pick up some of our soldiers, bring them home, bring them up to Mississippi, we will pay you $5 for every enlisted guy and $10 for every officer. Now, this is 1865. In that money, it's like $80 to $160 per person. That's a good freaking payday. So James, Captain Mason, whatever you want to call him, he probably was like, hell yeah. I'm going to get my ass. I don't care if my boiler's broken. I'm going to get my ass to Vicksburg. So he gets his ass to Vicksburg. And he kind of has some forethought. He does contact like a boiler specialist. And the boiler specialist is like, yo, bro, just so you know, like, this is like not a thing I can just fix overnight. Like, this is going to need absolute repairs because there's cracks all around the leak. And if I just patch it, like, this thing isn't going to hold. This is super dangerous. Like, I don't want to sign off on this. And he's like, yo, bro, calm down. It's fine. I'm about to make buku money. And when I have buku money, I promise you I will get it fixed when I arrive at my final destination. So no sweat, just patch it and I promise it'll be fine. And the guy's like, yeah, whatever, sure, cool, bro. Fine, you do you, boo, I'll patch it, good luck. So you can already see this isn't gonna go well. Enter bitch ass number 2, Colonel Reuben Hatch. This guy's probably worse than Mason, to be honest, because he's in the military and this dude's looking for an opportunity. I don't know why. Maybe he's like, the war is over. What am I going to do? I need money in my pocket because I've been starving. Maybe he wasn't starving. He was a colonel. He's probably doing it fine. Also, why do we pronounce it colonel? There is no R in that word. He approaches bitch ass number 1, aka Captain Mason, and he's like, hey, bro, I see you got a ship. There's going to be some other ships. I see your ship could use some work. So how about we strike a little deal, you and me? How about I guarantee you will get 1,400 men on your boat if you give me a little kickback on the side? And Mason's like, drink up, bro. Raise a glass. Sorry. Hamilton brain. Our last bitch ass, although he's kind of less of a bitch ass and kind of more just like made a mistake, is Captain Augustus Williams. He was charged with counting the men that came aboard the Sultana. And all of the soldiers were arriving on trains. So train number 1 arrives. He's like, yes, get on the Sultana, get on that ship that looks really bad, even though there's 2 bigger ships next to the Sultana that are in way better condition that could hold way more men, but no, get on that ship. And then for some reason, unknown why, he decides to take a mosey. He moseys away. He goes, maybe he had a pee, maybe he needed a drink. I don't know, he wanted a snack. But he leaves, and while he's gone, train number 2 arrives, and those men hobble, I'm probably like really hobbling, dying basically, get onto the ship. And then he returns from his journey, fun zone. I don't know what he was doing. Nobody knows what he was doing, okay? He comes back just as train number 3 arrives. So he's still thinking, yo, I only got 700 men on this ship. Here we go. Is it a boat or a ship? What's the difference? It doesn't matter. So train number 3 comes in. He's like, get on there. Then he looks up and he notices, whoa, top deck's bowing under the weight. So let's prop it up with some beams because that's what you do when things are falling apart. So now we have about 2,500 soldiers and a couple different like regular civilians on this janky ass ship, boat, whatever, that was only ever meant to hold at most a little under 400 people. They take off, and one of the most devastating things about this is the sickest men they placed close to the boilers, because these men had been freezing in these prison camps, and like I've said a million times now, we're close to death, so they wanted to keep them warm. This will end up being even more tragic. They're cruising. The captains are probably in their corners smoking a stoke. I don't know what they're doing. There was no prostitutes on board that I know of, so it was probably kind of a lame time. But they were on their way home up north after fighting this horrendous war. Anyways, 2 a.m., all hell breaks loose. I need a drink, hold on. 2 a.m. Like 2 or 3 of the boilers explode, like literally explode volcanically. Like there is a crater. It is boiling hot. I wasn't there, but I'm imagining it's boiling hot. It's spewing flames. It's spewing lava, basically. There is a hole where these boilers used to be. All the men next to them instantly dead. Everybody's dead. People are falling in the hole. They're falling in the hole. Think about this. It's 1865. I don't know what you guys know about swimming history, but a lot of people, like, learning to swim is a fairly modern thing. Like, people did it. I'm not saying this is a 21st century thing of playing in the water. It's definitely not. But I'm just saying it wasn't as widely known or taught as it is today. So you have tons of men and some women that are now, I should have mentioned that at one point on their journey, they stopped in one other port and picked up some more regular people. So it's even more than 2,500 people. It's a nightmare. It's the worst thing ever. So you have people facing, do I stay on this burning ship or do I jump in the water? Both times I'm gonna die. Captain Mason, bitch ass number 1, is frantically ripping off pieces of his own boat and throwing it in the water for people to try to float on. This is a Titanic situation, folks. It's bad. It's Rose and Jack in the water, and it's do or freaking die. And this is like, has those big like wheel things. That's not a technical term, but we know what I'm explaining here. Think Princess and the Frog, New Orleans, those ships. That's what we're getting at. One of them slaps down in the ground, drowns some people, other people climb on board. And at this point, there's kind of only fire on one end of the ship. So some people are kind of safe. You have people doing crazy things. Like one of the most horrific stories that I heard about during this entire ordeal was there was a wife, her husband, and their child, and they were trying to tether themselves to each other, and her slipped as her husband and son went into the water, and she got hers up just in time to look in to see her family getting drowned by people in the water trying to use them as human buoys. Okay? Tragedy. And then it gets worse because the other wheel thing slaps down and it gets like air or something, or maybe this is the first time. All I know is it was bad, guys. Like the ship thing went down, the wind caught it, so the ship starts turning and the flames are going. So now people that were on a part of the boat that wasn't on flames, it's now on flames. So everybody basically has to abandon ship. Some people are lucky enough, they find debris, they float downriver, and then they get help because they're traveling down the current of the Mississippi, man. They're booking it. But here's the amazing thing. Here's a sweet little moment. So we are in what was Confederate territory. This is the South, okay? These are Union soldiers dying. Most of the people that were saved by just regular people that got into their own boats that saw what was happening and came and saved them are ex-Confederate soldiers that are going to now save Union soldiers. Like, that's poignant. That's emotional. That shows that, like, in a time of crisis when we're not at war, people can and will help people. And that's nice. Well, let's drink to that. Rescue ships come. People in their own boats come. Everybody that can be saved at this point has been saved. The rest are lost to the river. In total, about 1,800 people died that day, including Captain Mason. To put that in perspective, the Titanic only claimed the lives of about 1,500. So huge difference here. Bodies were washing up for days. There was a coffin shortage because so many bodies kept washing up. And you have to wonder, why the hell is this not front page news? Why isn't this taught along with all of the other tragic, horrendous things that happened during the Civil War? Well, there's a couple reasons. Number one, the country had been at war for years. People were tired of reading about tragedy in the newspapers. They were sick of it. Honestly, it probably wouldn't have fazed them that much. They were so used to reading about horrendous amounts of death. But then again, you also have the government element. This was something that happened because a military man arranged it. He knew it was unsafe. They were trying to kind of back alley this thing, and it went south. They're not going to publicize that. And probably the most real reason why it wasn't talked about was because Abraham Lincoln had been killed just days prior, and his funeral train was still making its journey, and everybody wanted to know where Abraham Lincoln's body was. That's what people wanted to read about. So this horrendous thing that happened to these men that had already been through the worst things imaginable and somehow miraculously survived, died trying to get home. And it's so mind-blowingly heartbreaking. But these people, these survivors, they did something really amazing. There was a North and South group of them, and each year on the anniversary of the sinking, they would get together, and they had this script that they would read, and they would be together, and they would take a photo. And this happened to the very last person was still alive, and he went to the same place they would meet. He still read their script even though nobody was there. He had a photo taken of him by himself, and then he passed. There have been some markers placed at the mass burial sites. There's no official, this is where the Sultana sank thing in the river where it was. But the positive news of this is, even though there's nobody surviving from the Sultana, the descendants of the survivors of the Sultana now meet together, and they are the ones that are trying to spread the word about this event, because these people mattered. Their lives mattered. They were heroes. They were victims. They fought to unite a country that pretty much has never wanted to be united. They fought the good fight. And then when they should have survived, when they should have been able to live their lives as happy, joyous people, they died in a really tragic, the most tragic maritime disaster in American history. So we should talk about it, people. We should talk about the Sultana. I hope today this rant, this moment, this weird Sultana spritz has made you think like, hey, I want to read more about the Sultana. I want to do my research on these people. I want to tell my friends about this because this is a thing that happened in American history that's important. And, if you don't care, thanks for watching. Tune in next time for another weird rant. Bye, creeps. Creeps, if you liked my content, please go ahead and check out all of my other videos. There's a lot, and it gets weird and spooky and weirder.